Changing the transmission fluid on your 2006 to 2012 Toyota RAV4 is an easy job you can do yourself and save a ton of money doing it, and we're going to do it right now. Now, this car is new to me, and the first thing I did was a full tune-up, and I noticed the transmission fluid was pretty dark, almost black. That's not really a good sign, and there are risks associated with changing this fluid at this point. You can do some research and see if that's something that you might want to do or not. But for me, I'd rather change it, start fresh, and if there's issues with my transmission, I'd rather find out about them now than later. I have a lift, which makes this job pretty easy for me, but this is something totally doable with a set of ramps or a jack and some jack stands. Once you're underneath the car, there's this front plastic splash guard that's going to come off with about 6 10mm bolts and about 6 million of these little snap things. Once that plastic is removed, it'll expose the transmission pan. It's held on by a number of 10mm bolts. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to sort of spray them a little bit and let it soak for a while. They're pretty corroded, and the last thing you want is for one of these to round off or worse, to break. So I'll let that sit for a little bit. There's a plug underneath. It's a 10mm hex head. I'll put a link below to a set of those. Then there's a cross member on the right-hand side of this. Now, you don't have to take it off to do this job, but it makes it really difficult to get to those 10mm bolts. So there's four 14mm bolts. You can remove this entire thing out of the way, and it'll make the job a lot easier. You might want to spray those down as well because they're going to be corroded and on there pretty tight. To remove the drain plug, you'll need a 10mm hex head socket. And you want to make sure, I'm using some compressed air, and you could use whatever you need to clean that thing out. You don't want any debris in there because you want this to fully seat. I'm even going to hit it with a hammer a little bit because I don't want this to strip or round off in there. Now I have an air ratchet here, but I'm actually just using it by hand. I'm not going to use anything powered. Certainly not going to use something like an impact gun for this. But once you break this free, you can spin this out by hand. And you'll see how dark this fluid here, not good. But the magnet on top of the plug looks clean, so I'll take that as a good sign. This plug does have a crush washer, and I'm not sure if I have another one of these right now, so I'm just going to clean it off really well to put it back on. But once this fluid is almost all the way out, just down to a few drips, reinstall this plug so that you don't make a mess while you're working on the pan. The pan is held on by a number of 10mm bolts. Take your time taking these out because they're going to be on there pretty tight and corroded. You don't want to round these out. I'm using my an air ratchet here, but I'm breaking them free first by hand before I apply any power. When you're down to the last few bolts, make sure you have something underneath the pan because it's probably going to come off pretty easily. It's a regular gasket there, not RTV, and there's going to be fluid there, so you don't want to make a mess. After that, remove the filter, which is held on by 3 10mm bolts. I'll put a link below to this kit. Comes with the filter and a gasket, relatively inexpensive, from Amazon. Periodically, as you're working, take a rag or a paper towel and just dab and clean off any of the drips that are still slowly coming down. Reinstall the new filter. Take a little bit of the old fluid and just make sure that O-ring is lubed up nicely. Put it in place. It should kind of stick in there because of the O-ring, and mount it with those 3 bolts. These are going to be torqued down to about 69 inch-pounds, which should roughly equal about 5.7 foot-pounds. Use caution doing this because they can strip. Next, we'll turn our attention to the pan. I'm going to use an unhealthy amount of brake clean to really clean this thing up. Notice that the gasket came off in pieces. It was brittle. So you want to make sure that any remnants of that gasket are fully cleaned off of the ridge at the edge of this pan. Clean it off the best you can. There are 3 magnets in there. Don't get rid of them. Clean them off, put them back in place. There are little detents in the metal to show you exactly where they go back in. With the inside of the pan cleaned off well, go ahead and give the outside one more shot of brake clean. This mating surface, you want it to be perfectly smooth and clean. I'm going to reinstall the magnets here, and I'm going to put the new gasket in. I'm going to hold that gasket in place by using a few of the bolts. Make your way back underneath the vehicle. Give this mating surface one more cleaning with some brake clean and a rag, and reinstall the pan. You're not going to tighten these down all the way just yet. Just get all the bolts in and make sure they're snug. Come back with the torque wrench. You want these to be torqued down 69 inch-pounds, again, about 5.7 foot-pounds, and do it in a crisscross pattern to make sure that that gasket seals properly. With all the pan bolts torqued down, go back and torque down this plug. That's also going to be 5.7 foot-pounds. Once that's done, reinstall this cross member with those 4 14mm bolts. These bolts get torqued down to 46 foot-pounds. And when you reinstall this, install the bolts in a crisscross pattern. That'll help to avoid bending or twisting or deforming that cross member. And now it's time to refill the fluid. Toyota calls for their brand, of course, and it's a WS fluid, they call it. But this fluid right here, Valvoline, if you look at the back, it'll tell you that it is compatible and you can use this fluid. I'll put a link to that below. This vehicle, all in, could have up to 9 quarts of fluid in the system. But when we do this filter change, we're probably only going to have to put in about 4, maybe just a little bit less, maybe a tiny bit more. So we're going to start off with about 3.5, 3.8. And you can use the little window on the side of the container to get an idea of how much you're putting in. Fill it in. Then we're going to run the car, get it up to temperature, check the dipstick, and see how much we need to top off. This is the most critical part of the job, and on some vehicles, it's complicated. We're lucky here for this vehicle, there's a dipstick, which makes the job easier. It'll be even easier if you have a diagnostic tool because you can watch live data and the temperature of your transmission fluid. You want to check your fluid when it's about 160 degrees. If you don't have one of these tools, just drive your car for about 15 minutes, come back, make sure your car is level, and that's what you're going to check. For me, I'm just going to run the car here, watch it climb temp. I'm going to cycle through the gears from all the gears, leave them in about 2 seconds, maybe 2 to 5 seconds in each one, help that fluid get into all the valve bodies. Once I'm up to temperature, I'm going to check. And you want this to be in range, and if it's too low, you add a little bit. If it's too high, well, we're going to have to pull some out. That's why you don't want to put too much in to begin with. For me here, it's just right. I'm going to just top off with a tiny bit, and I'm going to be done. With the fluid at the correct level, I'm going to come back underneath and take a look. Make sure there's no drips. It looks to be sealed up really nice, so I'm going to reinstall this plastic panel, and we will be done. One note about these plastic panels. If you're going to be doing DIY work and you're going to be removing panels like this, these little snaps, they break so easily. Do yourself a favor, go ahead and get yourself a whole kit of new snaps, of new buttons, or whatever the hell these things are called. That way you're ready to go to reinstall and have everything you need. I'll put a link below to this kit. It's cheap on Amazon. Because my fluid was so dark, I want to make sure this is going to be working well. So I took the car out on a drive. If you find yourself changing this fluid and you've got dark fluid as well, go ahead and take it for a ride. Don't accelerate too hard. Just slowly make sure you can get through your gears. And as you can see here, look at the dip, tiny dip in the RPMs. I'm changing gears. I didn't hesitate. It's working nice and smooth. So I lucked out here. We're good to go. I'll put links below to the tools or products I've used. I like making these videos to show how easy it is to do some of these things on your own and, of course, to save money while doing it. And if you use my links, I will earn a whole 17 cents.